Hello, listening audience, and welcome to another Toonkind at 12 frames per second. My name is Whirl. I am one of your players for the day, and I am joined here today by my wonderful, beloved, amazing best friend and scheming buddy.
Hi, I'm Wiz. I'm going to be playing Chifley Ford today.
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Okay, so let's set the scene. So, Chifley, you have been in town, specifically Toontown, for a couple days now. Or a little while now, actually. More than a couple days. How long have you been here?
Since 2 days before Animus. So it's about a month.
Yeah. And, with the help of some kind friends and a few strokes of very good luck, you have managed to secure a place to stay, and you've managed to get your little sister enrolled in school, if I remember right. You found her a school, right?
Yeah, we found her a school, but she hasn't started yet.
But there is a bit of a problem in that even with a lot of things thankfully set up, money is still a thing that you need to survive, unfortunately, because capitalism is a bitch.
Damn capitalism.
Exactly. And that is how you found yourself in the market for a job. And why don't you tell us where you're looking today?
Well, Chifley started looking everywhere he possibly could. Like, he's never had a job before. He doesn't know what he'd necessarily be good at. So he's kind of looking at anything that even remotely looks like a help wanted sign at this point. Yeah, he's probably because he's not very strong and not particularly charming. So, like customer service, doesn't know how to do that. But he's trying anyway. Like he's gone up to every cafe he can think of and said, like, "Can I do something?" And they've sort of looked him over and gone, "Sorry, we need someone experienced for this job." It's like, oh, dang.
Yep. It's been a bit not easy, but a couple days ago, you got, shall we say, an anonymous tip from a certain colorful source um about the Einquell Continental Color Registry. Namely, that they've been rather on the understaffed side lately, and that they are looking for new hires. Anybody who's able to chip in at this point, because, good God, it has been a mess. Especially after the incident that happened a few months back.
Well, he's definitely not going to turn down the lead. He's going to head straight there.
All right. And that, Chifley, is how you find yourself sitting in a very familiar to the audience, but perhaps not familiar to you. I don't know if Chifley's ever gone to get his colors tested, but you find yourself in a waiting room.
I don't think he has ever had his color tested before, so he would not have been in here.
Yep. So this is an entirely new place to you. Why don't you roll me perception and or history?
Okie dokie. How does he do on those? Oh, he's really definitely going to do perception because his history is garbage. There.
21! Dang!
That's not a bad start. Good on ya.
For once, the dice do not bully us. Okay, so you're sitting in this lobby on this very comfy couch. It seems like today is a bit of a busy day because there are a couple other people sitting here, just sort of waiting. No one's really bothering you. Everyone's just kind of minding their own business because, like, when you're at the doctor's office, it's not like you try and make conversation with the other people in the waiting room. Um, there's a couple magazines, there's like you can see the sky through the big window overhead, and it's very pretty. It's a nice day out. Uh, and there is a fountain in the middle of the room, with a statue of a deity you actually know.
Yeah. It's actually he when he walked in the door, he just sort of looked at it and went, "Oh, I see." It's like just sort of gives himself a little knowing nod and then sat down.
So you have been waiting for a while. You've seen a couple people get called in, disappear for like a while, and then come back out. And then a young lady, or, well, you assume she's young. It's kind of hard to tell with Tunes. She doesn't look
Mm.
old, and that's about as much as you can tell with Tunes. Uh, with bright orange hair, in a mostly orange and yellow outfit with a bright white coat, comes out through the big door behind the desk, uh, and she's looking at a clipboard, and she like looks up at the room and says, applicant one um for the sub archivist position, or the
Chifley
archival assistant
jumps up.
position.
Chifley jumps up like with massive enthusiasm and just sticks his hands up. It's like, "That's me," and trots over.
She looks a bit surprised. Why don't you roll insight on this lady, or perception if you like, whichever's better for
What's his insight? Insight is the thing that he does.
That's a 22. Dang, Chifley's got all the rolls today.
Yay!
Okay, so with this insight roll, you're looking at this lady, and she looks tired. That is the first thing you notice, is that she looks friggin' exhausted. She is, like up close, now that you've like actually walked over to the desk, you can see that her hair and skin are both kind of drippy in sort of a dripping paint type way. She's got dark circles under her eyes, but she still like gives you her best approximation of a smile and is like, "Right, well, glad to see you're so enthusiastic. If you'd follow me, we are going to head to my office. I am Dr. Book, Paige Turner Book, that is. Pleased to meet you."
Nice to meet you. My name is Chifley.
"Pleasure to meet you, Chifley." And she leads you around the desk, up the rainbow colored stairs, which, fun fact, every time you step on one of them, they make a sound like a piano. Like, it's a different piano key.
That's going to make him giggle slightly.
Uh, she notices the giggle and grins and says, "Yeah, the stairs came with the place. We didn't know what to do with them, so we just kind of kept them."
I'm glad you did. That's delightful.
"Yeah, okay, and I'm gonna actually roll survival for her.
She's that tired.
She's tired and her workplace is a disaster." That's a 12. Okay, so she, like, looks around for a second at these doors, which are all identical, and then she walks over to one of them, opens it, closes it really fast with a quick "sorry," and then looks around. "Ah, wait, no, this one's my office." And she opens the door into her office.
Chifley's just sort of looking around going, do they have to remember which door is which, or has they got signs on the door?
It looks like mostly memorization.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. You kind of figure that these people kind of work on a Toon logic, what needs to happen will happen mentality. Like, if they have somewhere they need to go, they'll just wind up there.
Oh dear. That seems problematic, but okay.
It is not a very good workplace organization strategy. Um,
Oh dear.
but you are led into this little office, which is different from the inside of the lobby, because that's all like white stone and very polished, very bright, very shiny. In here, it's darker. Like the floors are made of a smooth black stone that, as you step across it, slightly faintly glowing circles of gray um, ripple out from your footsteps.
Mm.
Um, and the walls are made of the same kind of stone. And as Paige talks, as she leads you into the room, um, it sends bouncy, wavy lines of bright orange light across them, almost like a heartbeat monitor. You're welcome to try and roll history or insight on those
No, I'm definitely going to roll insight on that.
to figure out what this stuff is.
Oh, I think I know, but Chifley's not sure.
All
Apparently.
right, well, Chifley, you're not 100% certain, but well, you can definitely tell that the stone is reacting to sound.
Mm.
Um, and maybe it's just because you've never seen her voice before, but hmm, you've kind of seen patterns like that during a certain meeting that happened in an off-screen thing.
Mm. Yeah. He's just sort of going to look at it and go, I wonder if that's the same thing. But like he's going to say that all internally. He's just going to look at it very curiously. Oh, neat.
Um, and Paige is kind of babbling as she's walking around her office, grabbing papers and a recorder, and she says, "Yeah, I'm just going to have to record this for posterity, just to make sure, I've got something to show the others if we decide to hire you. Feel free to take a seat.
Oh,
This should only
okay.
take a second."
He's just going to go and sit down.
Yep, it's a nice chair. Everything in this room seems to be in like these shades of dark gray and black, though,
Hmm.
which is odd. Um, except for a bright green plant that is on Paige's desk.
I see. Is it a real plant? Or is it a
It is
plastic plant?
it is a real plant.
Oh, good. Oh, boy.
It is a real plant in a flower pot that is painted with little cats.
Aww.
Um, and eventually Paige finishes up. She takes a seat behind the desk, sets the tape recorder on the table, sets her paperwork down in front of her, and presses record. All right. Well, this is an interview with applicant one of one uh, for the archival assistant position. Uh, would you do me a favor and introduce yourself again for the recording?
Sure. My name is Chifley Ford.
Right out.
Um, hmm, yeah, that's pretty much it.
She kind of laughs and says, "Relax, none of us bite." Uh, and then to the tape recorder, she says, "Interview being conducted by head archivist Paige Turner Book of the God. You guys, I'm not going to say all my divisions because we all know that I do like 90% of the work around here. Anyway, she folds her hands on the table in front of her and smiles at you and says, why don't you tell me how you heard of this position?
I was actually told that you might be interested in hiring people.
By anyone in particular? Did you see a sign or something or
Uh, no, there's no sign. There's actually a statue of her out there.
Uh, there's just kind of this moment where you can like visibly see the dot, dot, dot over Paige's head, and she just kind of says, "Right. Well, we will mark you down for having a glowing letter of recommendation."
He sort of rubs the back of his head really awkwardly.
And she scribbles something down on her clipboard and says, all right. Well, Chifley, have you got any sort of background in, uh, I don't know, have you got any experience with, medical practicing? That's the term, right? Medical
Uh,
practices?
yeah, not formally, but I helped my mother had a really difficult time giving birth to my younger sister, and I was able to help with that. I know a few healing spells, which well, all the adults said that I basically saved their lives, so I guess they're pretty good.
Hmm, impressive. She nods and writes something down. You can't really see what she's writing because her handwriting is very much the loopy tune writing that only really makes sense if you look at it really close up. Like, you know the phrase of having handwriting like a doctor?
Mm, mm,
She has handwriting like a doctor. Appropriate, because she is a doctor.
appropriate. Mm,
Um, and she looks at the uh notes again and asks, "All right. Well, let's see. I know you got a apparently glowing letter of recommendation from our patron goddess. That's surprising. She hasn't talked to anyone for a while. Um, hmm. Do you have any experience with typical clerical duties? We do find that is a bit of a benefit, not just for the magic, but also for the understanding of how to deal with important materials. You understand.
oh well, yeah, no, I am I'm a cleric. Um, he has no idea that she means paperwork. Just gonna put that out there.
Well, she wasn't actually referring to paperwork because if you remember,
Oh
the
yeah, that's
Einquell
true.
the Einquell Continental Color Registry doesn't actually have a lot of paperwork involved unless you count the color sample cards themselves.
That's true. I did forget that. My brain just went clerical. That means paperwork. It's like no. Cool. Yeah, no. I'm a cleric, so I've done that sort of thing before.
All right, well, that's always a benefit. You and Felix would get along well. Um, hmm. And she scribbles something down. Ever gotten your colors tested, Chifley?
No, I don't. No.
All right, duly noted.
He sort
Hmm.
of starts looking at his at his over his body. He's just like, "What do you test your colors for? Is there something wrong with them?"
And she kind of notices that and gently taps her pencil on the paper and says, we test colors to make sure that everyone's got everything in order. Basically, we keep a record of our patients' color charts so that if they ever get hurt and something wonky happens with their colors. There's, several different ailments and whatnot that can mess with your colors, and then magic stuff sometimes happens. And then there are people who are color shifters who really ought to make sure that everything's kept track of so they know if something's out of whack. We keep a record of that for medical companies, um,
Oh,
basically, different hospitals and insurance providers.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Hmm. And, we do, of course, administer medical attention here if necessary. Speaking of which, she uh taps her she taps her pencil on the paper and asks, "How good are you at adapting under pressure?" And then I'm gonna need you to make a dex save.
Oh gosh. Oh, his dex saves are not spectacular, but we'll see what happens. Whoa. Okay. D20. 18, that's not bad. That's all right.
Not bad. So, as she asks, "How good are you at adapting under pressure?" Um, the chair that you're sitting on drops out from under you,
Oh, dear, oh
and
dear.
you have about a split second to jump out of the way of falling into a pit.
Oh, I like to think that he was sort of sitting on the edge of his chair anyway, because he's just so nervous. And he's just sort of just like, what the?
Well, you have good reaction time.
He's just sort of staring at the pit. He's like, was that deliberate?
It's it's part of the process.
Hmm.
She presses a button, like now that she's not trying to hide the fact she's doing it, you can see her press a button under the surface of the desk, and the chair comes back up.
He sort of eyes it a little bit, suspiciously, but he does sit back down. He's just like, I'm just gonna be poised to jump if that happens again.
She grins, and then says, "All right, now, what do you think would be important personality traits for an archival assistant to have?"
Mm, well, if you're dealing with people like when they're, hurt or sick or things, I suppose patient
Mm-hmm.
and um probably understanding, I suppose.
She's nodding and writing down your answers.
And being able to tell how they're feeling without having to listen to their words.
I'm going to roll insight. That's a 9.
That is a 9.
You know
Oh,
what? Because this is her job, I'm going to give her advantage.
that's fair.
That's
12's
a
better.
12! Okay, I think she's going to tilt her head and she's gonna look at you and say, "That's an oddly specific answer for that last one. I suppose you've got a way of doing that?"
Uh, yeah, yeah. I'm from the score. I can, I can hear people's background themes, and they tend to change depending on their mood. Is that a history?
Yep.
16's good for that.
She tilts her head and her eyes sort of brighten a bit when you mention that you're from the score. And she nods and says, "All right, well, that's definitely an advantage to have in this field. Um, hmm.
He desperately wants to point out that her background sounds so tired, but he's not going to. Like, if she wants to roll insight on him, she's welcome to, but he's just like, I really want to say it.
I don't know if that's enough. Is that enough?
That's enough to know that there's something he wants to say. For sure. On that
And
particular topic.
As she kind of smiles and says, "Penny for your thoughts?"
Oh, I can hear your theme as well, and you sound really tired.
Ah. And she kind of laughs and she looks a bit embarrassed and she says, "Yeah, yeah, we had an up all night case last night. I had to. Oh boy, that one was a nightmare, and I haven't had a chance to go home yet. So yeah, I'm a bit tired. I'll catch you up in the break room after this. So anyway."
Chifley has a very sympathetic expression on his face. Yeah. But he's just sort of like, yep, oh, okay, I understand.
And she kind of laughs and says, "How are your people skills, Chifley?"
Um, well, I I'm not as adept at it as the other people from home, so I don't mm, I don't really know what's a good way to put it. I'm polite and friendly, I suppose, but I can't say that I'm particularly charming.
Let me revise my question a bit. Let's say, for example, you get this job, and you're the archivist that you work under is busy for the day, and you have to handle a case with somebody who's here for their first ever color test. How do you reassure them and make sure they know that everything's going to be okay?
Um, well, it'll depend on the process. I don't know how it sort of works, but um, I could try and explain it to them in a way that makes them feel a bit more comfortable with the process. It's unknown is usually a lot more frightening than something you're familiar with.
And she kind of gets an odd sort of smile on her face as she nods and writes something down. And then she looks at the questions on the page and she sort of giggles. Oh boy. I, I
There's a
bet
little head tilt from Chifley.
I bet my I bet my bottom dollar lemon put this one on here. Okay. And she grins at you and says, "With the hot dog to hot dog bun ratio, why for the love of mustard are there never enough buns?"
Blink, blink. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
With the hot dog to hot dog bun ratio, why for the love of mustard are there never enough buns?
Um, he's sort of having a big think. It's just like, um, to make people buy more bags of buns.
And she sort of tilts her head and thinks and nods.
Chifley's just sitting there going, "How are hot dogs relevant? What the hell?" Visible question marks.
And she kind of laughs and says, "Strictly speaking, that one's not relevant, but uh, Lemon likes to sneak in funny questions in here to amuse whoever's administering the interview."
Seems like it worked.
You know, she's the yellow archivist. She always knows how to brighten everyone's day. That's why she works with the glowy types. Anyway, um, and she looks over her questions and she thinks for a bit, and then she sets the paperwork aside, folds her hands on the table, and looks you in the eye. Why do you want this job, Chifley?
My sister and I are away from home, and we don't have an income, and the money that we brought with us will not last much longer. So I need something so that my sister and I can eat. She keeps telling me she'll get a job, but she's 4. She's going to school, and she hasn't started yet, but she keeps going, oh, I won't go to school. I'll get a job. But our parents are no longer around, so I'm all she's got.
And Paige is quiet for a long moment as she listens to you. Then she nods. She closes the folder of paperwork. She hits stop on the tape recorder. She gets up and taps you on the shoulder and says, all right, come with me.
Okay. And he stands up and brushes his lap off slightly and trots after.
The interview process is, well, it's certainly one thing. But as much as I would love to give you this job, I got to make sure that you can handle everything that comes with it. So you're going to come with me for this shift, and we're going to see how well you do. Okay?
Uh, okay.
All right.
That's fine.
You'll do great. First off, and she stops into one of the doors, and let me just roll. Okay, that's not it. Uh, she opens a door to another office where a Toon with bright yellow hair uh, is looking over a a bit of paperwork and listening to music on a record, and she's like, "Oh, hey, Paige, do you need anything?" "Oh, no, sorry, Lemon. Wrong door." You really need to memorize these things better. You've been working here for 10 years. I know. Listen, it's the tired brain, okay? All right, just be careful. Yeah, yeah.
I'm just gonna roll something really quick too. Chifley's just thinking, if I get this job, I am labeling the doors. He's not gonna ask, he's just gonna do it.
That's not it either. She opens another door, and what's inside looks like a kitchen. And she frowns and says, "Okay, so that's where that one was. It keeps moving." And she closes it again.
Chifley's frowning. He's like, is it moving or did you just forget where it is? He's not saying it, but he's thinking it.
And finally, she manages to open one that leads to what looks like a coat closet. And she looks you over, kind of does that thing where you like make L shapes with your hands and make a frame with it, and catches Chifley in the frame, and then nods like that's a perfectly valid way of taking measurements. Um, and sort of babbles as she goes deeper into the closet and is like, "You're a skinny fella, so we're gonna have to look for something in a smaller size. No, that's too big. That's gonna be too small. Here we go." And she pulls out a lab coat in your size, which she hands to you.
Oh, sweet. He's just
And
sort of looking at it going, wow, I've never worn anything like this before.
it helps make sure that you stay safe in the workplace. Oh, you also need these. And she hands you a pair of rubber gloves.
Okay, cool. He sort of looks at them and is just like, okay. And he's going to pull off his normal gloves and his cloak and stuff them in his hammer space before putting these things on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then she actually takes you by like grabbing your wrist and then pulls you into the closet. And then she ruffles around between the coats for a minute until she finds a door. And you can tell she's found a door because she says, and then you hear a little click as she turns the handle
Oh
and
dear.
and opens a door and leads you into another room. Chifley, how you doing?
uh, he's so confused. He's having a few little like doubts. As like, is this really a good idea? What the hell is this place? But also combined with, okay, this is obviously some sort of prismatone thing. I wonder if we can like if you can give him a map because this is not going to go well. Uh, Although he's got a +5 to survival, so it's probably not too bad. But anyway. It's like, I need someone to organize this. Ah!
Okay. Uh, she's led you into this room where there is a bunch of equipment set up. Um, and it kind of looks like a practice room. And there's another archivist in here. Um, a young lady, or well, actually, she looks like she might be older than Paige. She has a very mom type vibe about her. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
with bright red hair made of rose petals. She's short, kind of chubby. She has the same lab coat and gloves on that Paige and now you have. Uh, and she is putting what looks like a fountain pen into a machine. And she looks up and she's like, "Oh, Paige, how are you?" "Hi, Rose. We're fine. I am teaching Chifley here the how you do the thing." "Oh, do you need the ah what is the the practice ones?" Uh, yeah, the practice pens. They should be. Which closet is it again? Third on the right, sweetheart. Thank you, Rose. And Paige kind of looks at Chifley and says, "Chifley, this is Rose. Rose, this is Chifley."
It gives a little wave.
Um, and she kind of gives you this warm, friendly smile and is like, "Oh, you look like you're going to do great, sweetheart. Or have you got any experience with the machinery?"
He mutely shakes his head. Like, he's sort of looked at it, and he's just like, oh, confusion.
Ah, don't worry. Uh, Celeste didn't have any experience when she first got here either. You just pay attention to what Paige says, yes?
Okay, I'll do that, miss.
All right. And don't worry, you're going to do great. And she like lightly pats you on the arm, and you have just been given a point of bardic inspiration.
Aw. Oh, dear. That's
Rose
nice.
Rose is a blessing. Um
Aw.
and
Um,
uh Paige grins and says, "Yeah, she's real sweet. Okay, come on." And she leads you over to a table in the background.
cool.
Um why don't you roll me investigation?
Alrighty, we can do that. What's his investigation? +2. Boop. Nice! That's a dirty 20!
That's a dirty 20. Good job. Okay. So you're looking at this table, and it does kind of look like a medical table, like,
Mm-hmm.
clean metal, um, a bit of equipment scattered over it. But the main piece of equipment that you can see is, again, it's one of those fountain pen looking things, but it's got like the the pen part that you would hold is really fat and round, and it's hollow, and it's made of glass.
Cool.
Um, And there is a clear plastic tube attached to the end of it, the opposite end of it from the point, that leads into a jar.
Hmm.
And Paige says, "All right, so this is called a sampler. Well, actually, there's, a fancy official name, but all of us just call them the samplers. And what you want to do is this." And she picks it up and explains to you how some of the moving parts work. Like, the point ever so slightly digs into the skin of whoever you poke it with and snatches a sample of their color work, um, which then gets slurped into the handle of the thing. Um, and then goes down the curly clear tube into the jar.
Cool.
Now, there are two things that we do with this. The first one is swatching, and the second one is sampling. For a swatch, you don't press this button, and she turns it to show you a little red button on the side of the tip, like right about where you would hold the pen. There's like a
Mm-hmm.
little red button, and she says, "So this is what sends the sample into the jar." And we only use this when we're doing a big draw. Um, you only would see like a jar like this when you were doing a draw on somebody whose blood is the same as their ink, or whose blood is the same as their colors. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Um, because usually what we do, because pure color can be very dangerous to work with. That's something you should know right off the bat, because basically it is liquefied light. And well, liquefied light burns like a bitch. Um,
Hmm.
which which is why you've got these. And she taps the lab coat and gloves, and now I get to tell you what those actually do. The lab coat and gloves grant immunity to radiance damage.
That's valid.
Um, or radiance and poison damage. The gloves are for radiance damage. The coat is for poison damage.
Oh, that's very valid. That is very, very valid.
Yep. And she picks up the pen and is like, "All right, now I'm going to show you by using you as an example for what it feels like, and then you're going to try and do it on me, okay?
Okay.
All right, stick out your hand."
He does so.
And she like gently pushes back his sleeves, um, and then pokes the tip of the pen into his arm. And there's a slight pinch, and roll me a con save.
Okay. Mhm.
16,
Good.
you pass. Yeah, you
Hooray.
feel like there's like a little tiny moment of dizziness as you watch as like a splotch of your skin turns completely monochrome, but then the color bleeds back in, and she pulls the pen away and shows you that a sample of the sort of peachy color that makes up your skin is now in the sampler bottle.
His eyes are really round. Like, that's fascinating. Weird, but fascinating.
And then to swatch, you do this. And she holds the pen in one hand and very clearly showing you how she does it. She picks up one of these little paper index cards on the table,
Mm-hmm.
um, sets it down, picks up a normal pen, writes skin tone, and then skin tone unshaded, and then drags the point of the pen through the little box under where she has labeled.
Hmm. That's why it looks like a dip pen.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. She smiles at you and says, "All right, now you're gonna try and do it on me, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right, now, What do you think you want to roll to see how well you do this?
I mean, it's kind of a medical procedure, so I would say medicine.
All right, you can roll medicine. 19, nice!
This is something Chifley's good at, so.
All right, so she sticks out her arm, and you're actually hard pressed for a hot second to find a spot on her arm that has color because her skin is pure white. But
Hmm,
she does have freckles, which are sort of a dark orange color. And you actually do manage to get the sampler to work, and you take a color sample of what her freckle color is.
cool.
And
He's sort of gonna look at it in the pen and go, heh.
and you get it onto a swatch, and with a 19, your handwriting and your ability to color in the lines, as it were, is very neat.
Neat and tidy.
And she grins and pats you on the back and says, "See, you're natural." Now, with your actual personal coloration, you probably wouldn't end up working under me. You'd end up working under Celeste or Aquelia. Um, but, that's the basics of it. They both have different specialties that they work with. Um, God, I could use an assistant, honestly, so I might ask if I can get you on my team. Don't suppose you got any experience with color shifters?
He thinks about it for a second. He's like, I do know one.
And she's surprised.
He's, you might want to roll insight, actually.
That's a 12.
12. Oh, yeah, Lewis, you're right. He does know two. But it's not thinking of Tobias. He has
Lewis! We are trying to do an FPS here.
He has a slight blush on his very pale cheeks. Oh dear.
With a 12, what does that tell me?
Um, he he's pretty fond of this person he's thinking of.
And she kind of grins at you and says, "Friend of yours?"
He nods. It's like, yeah, a very dear friend.
Hmm. Well, dealing with color shifting tunes is definitely the main part of my department. It's half of why I'm so overworked because, you know, it's not like you're doing, one and done with the color sheets. No, you've got to work with the slightly unethical magic and, all that jazz. Well, I say unethical. Technically, it's just illegal. But everyone consents to it. It's fine. We don't do
Blink,
anything against
blink.
anyone's will.
Chifley has a slight concern.
Don't worry about it. Anyway.
Oh, dear, oh dear.
All right, now I want you to try and do the other thing I told you about with the taking a full sample. Okay?
Oh, okay. By pressing the button?
Mm-hmm. I don't have a lot of color to work with, so why don't you try doing one on yourself?
Oh, okay. He's gonna. Do you want me to roll again?
This time I want you to roll Constitution instead of Medicine.
Okay, just a straight con. Oh, goody.
Mm-hmm.
That's 7. Oh, Chifley.
Oh, God. Okay, with a 7, it's not below a 5, so you don't, like, drain yourself until you faint. But Paige has to, like, very quickly, like, gently grab your hand, stop you, pull the sampler away, set it down on the table, and then sit you down for a sec, because Chifley, you are dizzy. Yep, and that's why we make sure everybody tries that on the first day, so they know not to do that, because it's very hard to know your own limits.
Oh, that is an odd feeling.
Not pleasant. Hang on. And I'm gonna have her roll Hammerspace. Yep, that's a 7. She pulls out a packet of fruit gummies, which she gives to you.
He'll take them. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Just don't try and use these things on yourself. You got the basic technique down for taking a long-term sample, but don't try doing it on yourself unless you have up to 5 years of experience, because that happens.
Noted. He's just gonna start munching on gummies. It's like, oh, my head.
They are very tasty and sugary, and
Hooray.
they kind of help get the pep in your step back.
Yay. Thank goodness for sugar.
You know, for tunes, sugar basically works the same as vitamins, right?
Yep. Sugar is a vitamin.
Sugar is a crucial part of any tune's diet.
Mm-hmm.
And Paige kind of waits for a second for you to finish your gummies and kind of get your footing again, and she says, "All right, you ready to actually go out into the wild?"
I think so.
Cool. And she offers you a hand up.
He'll take it. He doesn't weigh anything.
And she, like, notes this and is like, God, if you do end up on the team, Rose is going to be giving you so much food. You are a twig, my friend.
I've always been like this.
That is mildly concerning. Anyway.
He sort of shrugs. It's like,
And she leads you out a different door, which leads back through her office into the upstairs hallway that is around the top of the lobby.
There is a confused blink. Okay.
The building, she likes to move the doors around, and basically just try and memorize the passageways, because no maps ever work.
Oh. He's probably still going to ask.
I mean,
like,
the best
if anyone can give him a working map.
the best you can do is probably try and get the building to like you, but she's not hard to impress.
He smiles at that.
And she looks at her watch, nods, and says, "All right, they should have gotten my next patient into the workroom E5. Where is E5?" And she's looking at the doors. And do you want to try and roll investigation?
Sure, we can do an investigation. 14.
14. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna give it to you this time. So you kind of start to get the feeling of what Paige means by memorizing the layout, not because you've actually memorized the layout, but because you kind of feel a tug in your weird soul stuff, in your guts, and it's like leading you toward a certain room.
He's going to take a few steps and then point. It's like, I think this one, maybe?
And Paige looks up from where she'd been inspecting one of the doors to make sure, is this one E5? This might be E5. Is it E5? And she looks up, looks where you're pointing, and then her eyes light up and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's E5. Good job." And there is nothing distinguishing this door from any of the other doors, but apparently this is room E5.
It's just cementing the label the doors. Even if they move, labels will help in the back of his head. But he seems quite pleased with himself.
Yeah, and Paige gives you sort of a friendly pat on the shoulder as she passes by and walks into the room. Uh, and she greets the person inside, who is a little girl, um, with sort of she's UPA, and so she has a very simple color palette. She's just got like three colors. She's a little girl with sort of a triangle for a head.
Mhm.
Hello, Daisy. How you doing today? And while Paige is talking, you are free to look to this little girl and like warming up to her and um, looking around the room. You are free to also look around the room and try and get yourself acquainted with. Okay, this is what I might be doing.
Okay, well, I suppose he might roll perception first.
Mm-hmm.
Another 14. Nice.
Yeah. It looks like a doctor's office. There's like a raised bed. There is a set of cabinets. There's a bunch of tongue depressors in a jar because you got to have the jar of tongue depressors. There's also a jar of lollipops. Um, there's there's a little diagram of like toon anatomy. Like it has it labeled of here is where your line art is. Your sketch goes under your colors. If it is over your colors, please call a doctor.
Yeah, that's fair. Is there like a clipboard or something, or does Paige have it like of what this little girl is in for today?
With a 14, yeah, you find the little clipboard that is on the counter. It looks like somebody else has already taken this girl through, sort of the basics of, height, weight, eye check, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it says that she's just here for a checkup and for um, just checking on uh, what is the. Hang on, let me actually check the Toonkind ailments document. Because I know which one I'm thinking of, I just don't remember how to pronounce it.
Mm-mm.
Do do do. Please hold for technical difficulties.
Trying to think of what one it could be.
Ah, yeah. Miss Calaria.
Oh
Basically,
yeah.
checking to make sure um, that, everything's fine. Because, Miss Calaria is usually affecting Frankenelli and Warren tunes, but when
Quite
it
common in UPANs, I think.
yeah, but when it like typically it's attributed to Frankenelli and Warren tunes according to the document, but
Mm.
when it affects a UPAN, you kind of have to be a little more careful because they don't get white spots; they get transparent spots, and those can be not so great for your health.
Mm.
You know, it's not so great to have see-through parts of you where you're not supposed to have see-through parts of you.
Mm-mm.
And as you're looking this over, Paige is sort of chatting with Daisy, and um, it's kind of sweet because even though she's already pretty short, she like crouches down a bit to be at eye level with Daisy, and says, "Okay, now Daisy, sweetheart, this is my friend. This is Chifley, and he's learning to be an archivist. Isn't that cool?" And Daisy, she nods and waves at Chifley. She doesn't seem to talk. Um,
Mm.
and Paige smiles at her and says, "Okay, now do you mind if Chifley is the one who does your color samples today? So he can learn. Because you're a really good patient, Daisy, and if there is anybody who can teach Chifley how best to handle a live patient, it's you. Yeah?
Aww. I love Paige.
And Daisy kind of giggles and she nods and she uh, gives Chifley a big smile.
He's going to smile back. Is there any info on the clipboard about how old she is?
Yeah, she's 6.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I'm going to assume that there's a sampler up here.
Mm-hmm.
Fairly easy to grab. Cool.
Yeah,
Is it set up, or does he have to do something to it?
uh, it it's one of the ones that doesn't have the thing attaching it to a jar because you're not taking a full sample. You're just doing color swatches today.
Yep. Cool.
And it's just sort of on a hook on the wall.
Okay. Groovy.
And Paige kind of like gently pats Daisy on the shoulder and says, "I'm gonna go clear things up with your parents, okay? You two be nice to each other. Got it?"
Oh dear. Chifley's like, oh gosh, is that an option? I hope she's nice. Oh, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I suppose he's gonna pick up the thing, and a lollipop, and trot over to where Daisy is sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to. Is she sitting on a chair, or like on a, I don't know, like a bed kind of thing?
You know how at the doctor's office they have sort of the thing that is both a chair and a bed at the same time? That usually has like a strip of paper over it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's sitting on one of those. I forget what those things are
Okay.
called.
No, I can't think of it now either. But there's room enough for him to sit next to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's gonna sit down next to her and offer her the lollipop. So, this have you had this done before?
She nods, and she very happily takes the lollipop.
Okay. Uh, where would you like? Just your here? And he taps his finger on her arm for one of her colors.
And she kind of blinks for a second, and then taps her cheek, because that's
Oh,
where Paige usually starts.
okay. We can start there. And he's gonna, I suppose I could roll his medicine again, or are you just happy to go with it?
Roll medicine again. Because this is, a live patient rather than somebody who's teaching you how to do things.
Yep.
That's a
Nice.
21.
Chifley's very
Dude,
good.
you're a natural at this. So
Yeah.
she kind of flinches a little bit when you like come with the little point of the pen, but
Mm.
like there's something about your demeanor that makes her like calm down a little bit, and she holds still, and it's just a little poke. Uh, and like she rubs her cheek, not realizing that you've already gotten the sample.
He's sort of taking this as if he was doing something with Missy, and he like takes the swatch on the paper and then sort of like pokes her nose, and he's grinning at her.
And she giggles, and you get a note of why her name is Daisy because little flowers start popping in the air around her.
Aww, cute. He's just gonna smile brighter at that. It's like, okay, which color is next? You're teaching me, remember?
And she does the very serious child face where you puff out your cheeks and puff out your chest and get the very serious look on your face, and she nods. Um, and then she looks over her colors and taps the sort of big block of color that makes up her dress.
Okay, we can do that one next. And I suppose we're just going to... Do you want me to roll again for each of her colours, or just ride on that 21?
Uh, I'll let you ride on the 21 for this one. Yeah, it goes pretty
Okay.
smoothly for this one. Um,
I like to think that, like, because when he's colouring in the swatch, like, he'll start with a smiley face and then cover over it.
oh, Chifley, that's adorable.
He probably wouldn't if he was dealing with an adult, but because he's dealing with a kid...
Yeah, yeah. Um,
He did really, really bad flower drawing or something.
aw, aw, bless his heart. And then, yeah, the last one, the last block of color is the ones that are basically gloves on her. Because she doesn't have color in her arms. She just has the line work, but she does have color in her hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's just these two bright colored circles. Um,
Yeah.
and you actually can see, like it mentioned on the sheet, yeah, she's got Miss Calaria. And you actually see a bit of that because instead of it being that the color doesn't all the way reach the outline, it's that on her hands, the color is just a little bit off from where it's supposed to be, so it leaves sort of a gap in her
Hmm.
outline, in between the
Right.
outline and color where there isn't supposed to be one. And
Right.
I'm going to need you to roll something to reassure her that this isn't going to hurt, because she does seem kind of nervous about this.
Okay. Do you want me to roll for it or role play it?
You can roll something for it, or you can just play it out if you like.
Well, I'll roll a persuasion to see how good he does, and then go from there. How about that?
All right, that's a
10.
10.
It's not his best efforts. Um,
So
uh,
when you like ask what the next block of color is, she kind of pulls her hands towards herself and fidgets with them because she knows they're supposed to be the next ones, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to do it because it kind of hurts. And like you can hear her music because you're you, and it's kind of this xylophone sound, and it sounds kind of sad and scared because she misses Paige. Paige she knows won't hurt her with this, but she doesn't know you.
yeah,
And
no,
you're
that's
very
fair.
nice. You're very nice and you're very good at this. So it's not like she's scared of you, but still, you're a new face and she's not sure if you can do it without making it hurt.
Mm-mm. He's going to look at this and then he's going to hunch over a little bit so that he's more at her level. It's like, do you want to hold my hand while we do this last one?
And she looks up at you and then quietly, mm-hmm.
If you're really good, you can have a second lollipop.
She giggles. Um, and the flowers are back again.
Yes! Alrighty.
And she,
Do you
like,
want me to roll another medicine for this one?
yeah,
Is it?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to be a little careful.
15.
Alright. Maybe it's because she was nervous, but you're a little nervous with this, so you kind of have to take a breath before, like, taking the sample.
Mm-mm.
And when she notices that you have to take a breath, it's kind of like that moment when your friend is scared and you're scared, but you notice your friend being scared, so you like pretend to be brave for them.
Mm-mm.
And she does sort of the exaggerated bravery posture
Oh, good on her.
to give you confidence. And you take the sample and you do it without hurting her.
Hooray! I think once he's done taking the sample, he's going to put the sampler down and he's going to take both of her hands in his. Okay. Was that okay?
She giggles brightly and she nods, and the flowers are just popping all around her design because she's very happy because, oh, you're nice. She likes you.
Atta girl. Here. And he's gonna grab another lollipop. He's like, probably don't eat this one straight away.
And she nods very seriously and sticks it into her hammer space, which seems to be the brim of the big floppy sun hat that's part of her design.
Cute.
And Paige comes back in the room and is like, all right, how you two doing?
We're all done.
Wow, you went fast. Good job. Daisy, how was he? And Daisy gives like the biggest smile and she's flapping her hands around and she runs over to Paige and like bounces and Paige like kneels down and puts her ear down where Daisy can talk to her. And Daisy whispers something in Paige's ear and she nods very seriously and is like, wow, okay. Well, I'll definitely make note of that. You ready to go home? And Daisy nods, and Paige, like, ruffles her hat, because she can't reach Daisy's hair, so she ruffles the kid's hat. Uh, and Daisy pauses for a moment, then she runs over to you and holds arms out like, hug?
Aw. He's gonna crouch down and accept said hug.
Gives
And
you,
he's also
gives you
going
a
to
big
say
hug.
quietly to her, it's like, thanks for being such a good teacher.
She giggles and gives you the biggest hug and says, did really good.
Oh, he looks pleased as punch.
And then the both of you take Daisy back downstairs to um, to where her family is waiting for her. Paige makes small talk with them for a bit while she's doing the paperwork. Um, and Daisy actually talks a bit louder, and you can hear her as she's like walking away with her parents, and she's telling them that you were really nice and you gave her a lollipop and you made her not scared and you didn't hurt her and you did great.
Aw. Chifley's
Um,
just sitting there going, yes, I did the thing. Hooray.
and Paige kind of smiles and is like, well, we've got a couple more this afternoon. Think you're up for it?
He nods. If they're all going to be here, hopefully they all go that well.
Well, we've got a couple ornery customers, but with such a glowing appreciation from Daisy, she's a tough customer. I think you'll do just fine. Uh, and we get kind of a montage. Why don't you roll me one last medicine check to see how well Chifley does for the rest of the day?
All right, sounds good to me. Holy shit!
27! Nat 20!
20! Holy crap!
Okay. Chifley, you do amazing at this job. Like, holy crap. Like, even with some of the people who are more skittish or more ornery, like, there's this one guy who's got, a case of film grain who's really grumpy about what Paige has to do to, like, clear the filter a little bit to be able to get at his colors, but I don't know what you do. How do you manage to get that guy to work with you?
That would probably be like a distraction technique. So just ask him to tell him, like just talk to him. It's like just tell me about this thing and that thing and that thing, and also like just keep him talking to Chifley while Paige does stuff.
Yeah, and you managed to get through this whole day, and no matter what the case is, by the end of their appointment, you have every single patient leaving with a smile. And
Literally could not have gone any better.
it really couldn't. And at the end of the day, You are tired, but there
Mm.
was something very satisfying about all of this. And you are back in Paige's office, taking a seat on the trick chair as she finished putting away the day's paperwork and pulls out a contract from her desk and is like, all right, well, how soon can you start?
My sister doesn't start school for another 2 weeks, but I could probably do a few days if I can get someone to look after her before then, but otherwise, when she starts school.
All right. And she notes that down and is like, well, how long hours do you want to work? I don't think
Uh,
we've had such a successful applicant since, well, since my application.
he's gonna give a bit of a grin at that. It's like, probably slightly less than school hours, so I can still drop her off and pick her up.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I'll assume you want weekends off?
Yes, please.
Alrighty then. And she draws up a contract for you, and starting 2 weeks from now, when your sister is in school, you are working uh Monday through Friday, um, 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon as a archival assistant.
Hooray! Chifley's just got this permanent grin. He's so chuffed.
And Paige shakes your hand and smiles at you, and like she winks at you and says, "I'm gonna try and get you on my team, but even if you don't end up working with me, I look forward to seeing you around."
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
And do you think that's where we should end it, or do you
Yeah,
want to give like us an ending scene as Chifley is leaving?
um, I think as he probably gets partway down the street before he's just holding onto his copy of the contract in both hands. He's just sort of not really dancing in the street, but he's sort of just got a little bit of a bebop in his step. And he's just like, I have to tell Sammy immediately.
And that's where we end it. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Wiz, for playing with me. I'm so glad we got your boy a job because that was giving me anxiety.
It was giving him anxiety too. Oh, that was a delight. Thank
That
you,
was
Will. That was
wonderful.
wonderful.
Thank you for playing,
Oh,
everybody. Thank you for listening. People who listen on the audio later, thank you for listening. Now it's time to say goodbye to our listeners. Goodbye, listeners!
goodbye.